Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely shatter the myth that chronic physical pain is just some localized tissue issue, and we're going to reveal its profound, undeniable connection to our mental and emotional states. I'm really excited to guide you through this material because truly understanding how we process pain, it fundamentally changes how we heal from it.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap. We've got 5 main stops today. 1. Nociception versus real pain. 2. Where emotional pain hurts. 3. The childhood trauma connection. 4. The chronic pain cycle. And finally, 5. Rewiring your pain pathways. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. Nociception versus real pain. We are kicking things off with a massive paradigm shift that completely redefines what it actually means to physically hurt.
So here is the crucial point. Detecting damage and actually feeling pain, they are two entirely different biological processes. Most of us use the words pain and nociception interchangeably like they're the exact same thing, but they're really not. Nociception is just your body's detection system. It's those specialized nerve endings sensing potential danger and shooting electrical signals through your peripheral nervous system to your spinal cord. But here's the kicker. That detection doesn't mean you're actually going to feel pain. Pain is a highly subjective experience that only happens when those signals reach your brain and get interpreted. You can even have nociception without pain. Think about when a patient is under general anesthesia. Their body is totally registering the surgical stimulation, but the brain simply isn't creating the experience of pain.
Now, if you've ever wondered why a simple paper cut is totally agonizing for you but barely even registers for the next person, the answer is literally in your DNA. Up to 60% of the variability in how we perceive pain is inherited through our genetics. Specific variations, like those in the SCN9A gene, basically dictate your baseline sensitivity. And honestly, this completely validates that your unique experience of pain is entirely real and biologically grounded. The intensity of your pain isn't just about how bad the tissue damage is, it's about how your specific, unique biological system translates that damage.
Section 2. Where emotional pain hurts. Let's move on and see how this builds into the fascinating overlap between a broken bone and a broken heart.
What's truly amazing here is the incredible efficiency of the human brain. When we experience physical pain, specific regions in the brain known as the anterior insula and the anterior cingulate cortex light up. But research shows that when people experience an experimental social rejection from peers, or even just look at pictures of an ex-partner right after a bad breakup, these exact same regions activate. Evolution essentially took the frugal route here, using the exact same neural real estate to process a stubbed toe and the grief of a tough breakup.
And to test just how identical these physical and emotional networks are, researchers did this wild 3-week study. Participants dealing with a recent social rejection were randomly assigned to take either a daily placebo or acetaminophen, regular old Tylenol. And guess what? The group taking the pain reliever actually reported fewer hurt feelings over those 3 weeks. Brain scans even confirmed less activation in those shared pain centers. Now, obviously, no one is suggesting you take Tylenol as a long-term cure for grief, but it perfectly highlights just how physically intertwined our emotional and physical pain networks truly are. Because every single cell in your body is linked to your nervous system. Emotional pain isn't just in your head. It actively triggers these micro-momentary muscular tensions and physical symptoms all over your body. Think about it. Unexpressed anger leaves this residual tension in your neck and jaw because you're literally suppressing the urge to scream. Deeper insults, like sheer rage, go straight to the bowels, which is exactly why we call them gut feelings. Insecurity and heartbreak disrupt the vagal parasympathetic activation in your chest, getting your heart and breath totally out of sync. And past hurt makes you intuitively retract your posture to physically protect your heart. Emotional pain hurts in the body because emotions always have a motor component.
Section 3. The childhood trauma connection. To really understand how our past dictates our physical present, we have to look at some incredibly groundbreaking epidemiological research coming out of McGill University. First, we need to define ACEs, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. These are potentially traumatic events that happen before a person turns 18. We're talking direct trauma, like physical, sexual, or emotional abuse, as well as indirect factors, like living with domestic violence or losing a parent. An international team of experts reviewed 75 years of research data across more than 826,000 adults to see exactly how these childhood events impact physical health later in life.
And the link they found is absolutely staggering. Individuals exposed to a direct ACE were 45% more likely to report experiencing chronic pain in adulthood compared to those who weren't exposed. 45%.
And those odds jump even higher with exposure to multiple traumas. This proves, without a doubt, that childhood trauma isn't just some psychological memory you carry around. It leaves a lasting, measurable, physical footprint on how your nervous system develops.
And the scale of this issue, it is immense. According to the research, 1 billion children globally, that is literally half of the world's child population, are exposed to ACEs every single year.
As the lead author Andre Bucieres emphasizes, these results are extremely concerning. Untreated childhood trauma is acting as a massive global driver for adult physical disability. Conditions like severe low back pain, arthritis, and chronic migraines are tightly linked to these early life adversities. We simply cannot treat adult physical pain comprehensively without acknowledging the childhood experiences that might have primed the nervous system for it in the first place.
Section 4. The chronic pain cycle. Okay, so once chronic pain actually sets in, how do our daily emotions and mental states act as amplifiers for that physical suffering? Let's break that down.
A huge amplifier here is something called pain catastrophizing. This basically involves 3 dimensions: rumination, which is when you're obsessively worrying about the pain; magnification, which is exaggerating how much of a threat it is; and helplessness, the feeling that nothing will ever make it better. When we catastrophize, it is not just a bad mood. It physically elevates inflammation markers in your body and spikes your salivary cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone. Your thoughts are literally changing your body's chemical environment, making the pain objectively worse.
And here is exactly where so many people get trapped in a literal vicious cycle. It starts with pain disrupting your sleep. Then, that sleep deprivation chemically lowers your body's pain threshold the very next day. Because you hurt more, your stress and anxiety naturally spike. That anxiety hyperfocuses your brain's attention on the threat, amplifying the pain signals even further. Eventually, this chronic, amplified pain damages dopamine activity in the brain, which leads to depression, and ironically, that depression manifests as even more sleep loss and even more somatic pain. Honestly, just understanding this loop is the crucial first step to breaking it.
Now, notice the distinct difference here between fear and anxiety. We tend to use those words interchangeably all the time, right? But they affect pain in totally opposite ways. Immediate fear actually triggers pain-inhibiting mechanisms. It numbs you so you can escape an immediate danger. But chronic anxiety? It does the exact opposite. Anxiety creates prolonged hypervigilance. It dials up your pain sensitivity by keeping your brain on high alert, causing you to notice and amplify mild signals that a calm, non-anxious brain would simply dismiss.
Over time, this heightened state of alert leads to central sensitization. You can think of this as a software glitch in your nervous system. Your nerves create a pain memory and start reacting to a light touch as if it were a severe injury, like a volume knob stuck on high. This prolonged state of high alert is so incredibly taxing on the body, it actually structurally alters your brain to the point where imaging shows a 1.3 cubic centimeter loss of brain gray matter for every single year of chronic pain. Just think about that.
Section 5, Rewiring Your Pain Pathways. But here's where we get to pivot from the problem to a highly empowering solution, because thankfully, the brain's adaptability works both ways.
We're talking about neuroplasticity. This is the brain's absolutely remarkable ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout your entire life. Just as your nervous system learned to stay in a state of high alert, chronic pain, it can be actively rewired to turn that volume dial back down. The neural pathways that cause that central sensitization, they can absolutely be overwritten.
And this brings us to the incredible power of psychological interventions, which actually equip patients with the tools to actively change their thought patterns. CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, helps break the cycle of pain catastrophizing by replacing those thoughts with balanced perspectives. Mindfulness teaches the brain to decouple physical sensations from emotional panic. And things like biofeedback use real-time visual technology to help you gain voluntary control over unconscious functions like your muscle tension and brain waves. Guys, these aren't just feel-good therapies, they are highly targeted neurological interventions.
And the proof is right there, in the functional MRI scans. Brain imaging confirms that when people utilize mindfulness practices, like a simple body scan technique, they display physically less activation in those exact pain processing regions we talked about earlier, the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula. By simply changing how we focus our attention, without judging or fighting the sensation, we can tangibly calm the brain and reduce the intensity of what we physically feel in the body.
So, the crucial takeaway here is that we really shouldn't wait for medications to fail before trying therapy. Treating pain as solely a physical issue ignores an entire half of the equation. Tackling the physical signals with medical treatments, while simultaneously addressing the brain's interpretation of those signals through psychological therapies, is the absolute gold standard of care. This combined approach is what actually breaks the vicious cycles of stress, anxiety, and sleep loss that keep chronic pain alive.
Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. We've covered some really deep connections today between your life experiences, your emotions, and your physical suffering. I want to leave you with this final, empowering thought. Your mind and body are fundamentally one single, highly adaptable entity. If your brain has the power to learn pain from your past, what new pathways will you choose to teach it today? Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next explainer.